Hi there.
Hey there. Good
Hello.
morning. Should I pause the recording for now?
Yeah, maybe.
And I'll start letting people in. Is that okay?
Sure, that's fine.
Good afternoon to those who have joined us. We're just going to wait a couple more minutes to get started. Okay, we'll get started in just a minute. So far, we have 14 people on the call. All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mark Glasgow. I am with the Clementine Gold Group, serving as the Community Engagement Manager. I thank you for your time in joining us this afternoon to join us for our public hearing for the draft scope of work of the East Delavan Sewer Improvements Project. This is actually our second public hearing for this project, as we hosted the first one just 2 days ago at the Northland Workforce Training Center in Buffalo, New York. So we're happy to continue this effort to gather public feedback and sentiment. And we'll be going through a presentation today that I will now share from my screen to yours. Just a moment, please. Can everyone see my screen? Perfect. First, we'll be starting with uh, some opening remarks from the team at the Buffalo Sewer Authority. Regina, did you want to begin?
Good afternoon. My name is Regina Harris. I am the project manager for this project on behalf of the Buffalo Sewer Authority. Next slide, please. Today we're going to talk about we'll have our team introduction shortly, program and project background, the draft scope of work, and the comment submittal process, and what that looks like, long-term control planning and project alternatives, and then our public involvement and enhanced public participation plan. Again, this is our project team. Again, I'm Regina Harris. Rosaline Nogo is on the call as well. She is our principal sanitary engineer with the Buffalo Sewer Authority. Our general manager is OJ McFoy. We also have on the call Rebecca Shaw, who is the project manager on behalf of Hazen. Katie Hook, who is the environmental lead, and Mark Lenz, who is the project director. Clementine Gold Group is our community engagement partner, and you've met Mark Glasgow, and we have Kim Levere and Akua Menz Adu, who is the president of Clementine Gold. So just a little bit of about the project. Next slide. Just a little bit of background about Buffalo Sewer and our ongoing efforts to reduce combined sewer overflows in the city of Buffalo. We actually yesterday had a press event to roll out our Queen City Clean Waters initiative. The mission of that initiative is to safeguard public health and the environment while fostering strong community partnerships, creating meaningful workforce opportunities, and driving lasting economic impact for future generations in Buffalo. Born and raised in Buffalo, so this is very important to me. But a little bit more about Buffalo Sewer and the City of Buffalo sewer system. We are a combined system, meaning that our sewer pipes take both sanitary and stormwater. During both dry weather and wet weather, we have the potential, but mostly wet weather, we have the potential for what are known as combined sewer overflows to our water bodies. In particular, for this project that we're talking about, the overflow conditions would go to Skajackwada Creek. So part of our Queen City Clean Waters initiative, we have a plan over the next 15 years to reduce the number of CSO or combined sewer overflow events. That plan includes over 50 sites and $1 billion investment in our infrastructure at the treatment plant to make sure that the sanitary sewage or combined sewage is treated properly, some smart sewer technology, green infrastructure, and then offline storage, similar to what we're talking about here at East Delavan. So what is this project? The improvements to the sewer system along East Delavan and Florida Avenue at Spillman is the entirety of the project. There are actually two phases, but in particular, this portion is talking about the main project, which is along Delavan Avenue. You'll see later in the presentation information about the two options for this project. But the goal here is to keep combined sewage out of Skajackwada Creek, as I mentioned, create 1 billion gallons of storage, and redirect the Buffalo Sewer redirect the combined sewage to Buffalo Sewer's Bird Island treatment facility where it can be treated properly. Next slide.
Okay, just really quickly, Regina, I'm going to stop the share so that I can actually disable the waiting room.
Okay. All right. All right. So why is this project required? The Buffalo Sewer Authority, like many communities throughout the United States, has a long-term control plan, or in our case, we are under an administrative order, which required a long-term control plan, which we continue to work on at the Buffalo Sewer Authority, which I mentioned our Queen City Clean Waters is a part of that. But it's for compliance with the United States Environmental Protection Agency, or the EPA, and the New York State DEC, or Department of Environmental Conservation. As part of that, we are required to reduce the number of combined sewer overflows, which in essence helps to improve water quality. And also part of that in our projects will help to improve or increase the resiliency of the system overall. Into the hands of Katie, I believe, to talk more about the draft scope of work.
Thanks, Regina. And thanks for everyone for joining this afternoon. So wanted to talk a little bit more about why we're here, why we're having this hearing. As people may be familiar with or not, New York State has what's called the State Environmental Quality Review Act. And that act is legislation that requires any projects within New York State that are being funded by, undertaken by, so done by or approved by a state agency or a local agency has to consider potential environmental impacts of that project through what's called, the State Environmental Quality Review Act, or SEQR for short. And so the purpose of that is to look at projects in a different way, look at their construction components, look at their operational components, and determine whether or not they may have a potential to impact the environment or communities where the projects are located. Certain types of projects, if there's a potential for them to have an adverse impact on the community, either during construction or operation, they have to complete what's called an environmental impact statement. Now, each project has a lead agency, which is the agency that guides through the SEQR process and determines, the level of documentation required in coordination with the state. And Buffalo Sewer is the lead agency for this project, and has decided that given the duration of construction, the location of the project within the surrounding community, and the desire to engage the community in the process, that they have selected to do an environmental impact statement for the East Delavan Sewer Improvements Project. And a draft scope document, then a draft scope of work, is essentially the blueprint for what the environmental impact statement will cover. And so it says, how different analyses are going to be done to determine the level of impacts, how the document will be organized, and then how public feedback will be incorporated into the process. Next slide. So we're here today because the draft scope was recently issued for this project. Again, that's the document, that's the blueprint explaining how the EIS will be prepared. And that was released on October 4th, and it's available online and at some repositories. We'll look in a minute. And then this week we're having the public hearings. So we had the in-person hearing on Tuesday evening, and now we're having the virtual hearing here today. And then the draft scope document is available and open for comment all the way through up until November 1st. And so essentially you're allowed, happy to have people make comments today here at the hearing. Those will be accepted and responded to, or you can make them separately via email or mail. And those will all be collected and responded to as part of the final scope of work process. Next slide, please. So if you haven't had a chance to take a look at the draft scope of work, there are some repositories where there is actually a physical printed out copy at the Buffalo Sewer Authority main office, and then also at 3 neighborhoods within closer vicinity to the project site itself. Next slide. And then if it's easier, you can also find the draft scope available on the Buffalo Sewer website at the link there, and the QR code will take you to that location. Next slide. And once you've taken a look, if you have any comments, oh, and then Mark also dropped it in the chat. Thanks, Mark, the link. And so if you have any questions or comments on the draft scoping document, again, we'll accept all of those comments through November 1st. And here is the information of where those comments can be sent. If you are sending them via email, we ask that we just put the East Delavan draft scope comments in the subject field so we can make sure that we're not missing any. And written comments and oral comments given today carry equal weight. They'll all be responded to. Next slide. Okay, so then what happens when the public comment period is over through the state's Environmental Quality Review Act process? So the draft scope will be updated as needed in order to accommodate and respond to comments from the public to ensure that then the guiding document for conducting the EIS and the guiding methodology is in line with and responding to public concerns or suggestions. So there's both a final scope document that says this is the final, blueprint, how the EIS will be done. And then after that's completed, we start on the actual environmental impact statement. And there will be some data collection happening. There has been data collection happening in the neighborhoods now, and it'll continue for a few more weeks. And that data collection is happening to inform the analyses that will be conducted for the EIS. So the 30-day public comment period is open right now for the draft scope. That will end in the early November, and the data collection will also be complete. And then we're thinking that in order to do all the analyses, run the data, gather the information that's needed, and do some reviews, that the draft EIS and final scope document will be released sometime in the spring. And there will be another formal public comment period for people to be able to review the results of those analyses and have any questions or comments on them and formally have them responded to at that time. Next slide. All right, kicking it over to Rebecca for some more about the project.
Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. I'm Rebecca Shaw from Hazen and Sawyer. Thank you, Katie. Next slide, please. So I'm going to talk about the long-term water pollution control planning that Buffalo Sewer is actively doing now, and this project will implement. So this project, the East Delavan Sewer Improvements Project, is part of the larger Queen City Clean Waters program that Regina was discussing earlier today. And this really is with all the same goals to reduce water pollution into the Skidjackwada Creek for this specific project. I know BSA has other projects that are intended to reduce water pollution elsewhere as well. So this is a graphic that shows how, during dry weather flow, when the sun is out, there's no rain, no snow melt happening in Buffalo, sewage makes its way down into the sewers and into what we are calling the Skidjackwada Tunnel. It's a very large tunnel, and then that will make its way to Bird Island Wastewater Treatment Facility for treatment before it's discharged to the Niagara River. Next slide, please. One back, please. So during wet weather, if it's raining and there's heavy snow melts, a portion of that combined rainwater and sewage that enters the Skidjackwada Creek drain, and a portion of it does go out an outfall pipe into the Skidjackwada Creek. So this project, as Regina was mentioning, really aims at reducing those overflows by temporarily storing over 1 million gallons of combined sewage and rainfall and snowmelts. This is really intended to hold the combined sewage before it can be sent to Bird Island for treatment. Next slide, please. So the proposed action, what we have are two proposed alternatives and how this ties into the EIS. So the overall goal is to select the best alternative for Buffalo Sewer and the community to divert and store the sewage to reduce those combined sewer overflow activations. Our project site is shown here in the blue box. And the Skagakota Creek runs, actually it runs all the way from like the Depew area, and then it goes in the northwest direction down to making its way around Buff State and to to this Skagakota Creek, right next to Unity Island, during that wet weather flow. Next slide, please. So Buffalo Sewer is looking at two design alternatives. Both design alternatives will meet the same goals of temporarily storing that combined sewage. The first option, what we're calling option A here, is an underground deep storage tank. That's beneath Canisius property at the corner of East Delavan and just north of Spillman Place. And that's shown on the left over here in that white rectangle. Option B is a storage tunnel, and that's located beneath the East Delavan right-of-way. So that's between, within the roadway, and that's between Meach Street and Main Street. Both projects are expensive. They will take about 2 or 3 years during construction. The largest impact we see right now to the community is the removal of the underground rock. So bedrock in this neighborhood is very high to the surface, which means it's costly and time consuming to actually break through that rock and construct these underground structures. In addition, the blasting that would be required into the bedrock, that will have noise associated with it. There will be vibrations and potentially dust. Removing the rock would also require a lot of truck traffic in and out of the site. Potential road closures and detours are going to be included in the project. And then, this would also affect noise and dust in the area. All of these construction impacts are temporary, and they would resume, normal baseline existing conditions when it's complete. So really the purpose of that environmental analysis is to establish those baseline conditions now, so that we can not have it negatively impacted the community. I think I'm going to pass it on to Mark to discuss the public engagement and involvement for the project.
Thanks, Rebecca. Appreciate that. So I'm going to go into a little bit about what we've been doing with our public engagement for this project and our enhanced public participation plan. So just to reiterate what some of Katie and Rebecca and some of us were already saying, right now and since September, there has been some preliminary work for the project in regards to data collection. So we've been working very closely with our environmental and our engineering partners to collect data for traffic, noise, and air. And again, the purpose is to more or less analyze what are the existing conditions so that we can just better understand any temporary impacts to the community that could occur during the construction period. And throughout the project area right now, workers may be seen doing some counting of vehicles or inspecting the monitors. And you may even see some devices mounted on poles or tripods. And the data that's going to be gathered will, of course, be included and available in the environmental impact statement for public review and comment at a later time. And to just go into a little bit about our enhanced public participation plan. So certainly the Buffalo Sewer does value public engagement and insight. And our team has really spent the last few months really actively engaging with the public through district breakfasts, meetings with elected officials and speaking at block parties, as well as tabling at neighborhood events throughout Buffalo, such as Funk Fest and Friday Night Live over the summer. Um, Throughout our different engagements, our team at Clementine Gold Group, we've been having various conversations with the public based on our project's enhanced public participation plan, or what we like to call the EPPP. And the enhanced public participation plan has been approved by New York State, and this plan more or less aims to make sure that we're promoting equity and addressing environmental justice concerns through community engagement throughout the project. And with each of our public engagement events, we are also seeking to solicit the public's feedback through surveys where they can weigh in on the design options, which Rebecca was reviewing briefly prior to me, and to also help the community understand what are the potentials for community betterment projects, and making sure that they are aware of what those initiatives are that could help better the community, including revitalized trees and the landscaping, and also new water and sewer infrastructure, and certainly the potential for workforce development opportunities. So again, the document for the draft scope of work can be found in various libraries throughout Buffalo, including Central, Coles, and the Meriwether libraries, and also at the Buffalo Sewer Authority office itself. And also, again, you can find the electronic version for downloading and viewing on the buffalosewer.org website. And again, commenting is being accepted through November 1st by mail, email, and fax. If you do plan to email, again, please be sure to use the email subject East Delavan draft scope comments as the email subject. That will be very helpful for us to isolate the comments regarding this particular project. And also, I would like to add that as we are moving forward with this project, we're really hoping to sustain community insight, guidance, and recommendations throughout this project. We're actually forming an advisory committee that we're going to call the East Delavan Advisory Committee. And we're really looking to effectively collaborate with the Buffalo Sewer Authority as far as having various individuals throughout the community who are interested in championing our community engagement efforts. This advisory committee will be meeting monthly to continue, conversations and engagement and insights and recommendations as we move forward with the project. If you are interested in joining this advisory committee, please drop your email and phone number in the chat box, and I'll be happy to reach out to you to give you more information about that. And certainly, active participation in this committee will be compensated, and I can share more information about that as well with you. If you have any comments that you'd like to submit, again, here is the email address, queencitycleanwaters@buffalosewer.org. And now I believe we'll open it up for some question and answers. I'll check the chat box now to see if there are any questions from anyone. Please feel free to put in your questions or unmute your microphones. So we have a question from Steve. He's asking, how was the location determined?
Hello, Steve. My name is Regina Harris. Well, we know that. The location was chosen when the original long-term control plan was developed in 2012. there was a location south of where we are locating this project. So there was a location along Spillman that was selected. And that location, as we move forward, was determined not to be the best location. It will require some more extensive work. It will require us to have a pumping station to get over the Skidjackwada drain, which is the essentially is the Skidjackwada Creek, which has been covered. And so it was determined not to be the best location. At the time, a few years ago, Canisius College, if you're from the area, had an existing parking garage that they were in the process of demolishing. And so we began to have conversations about placing the tank in that location. So that is how the choice technically for moving the location up into the Delavan area was made. Again, we have the two options. So one being using Canisius property, the other being the tunnel. But the move to Delavan as the area for the storage eliminated the need for us to have a pumping station. We are also doing a project at Florida and Spillman area, or Florida between between Jefferson and Spillman. That project will be coming up first. It is a part of this project, but it is coming up first. That project includes work on our sewer patrol point, or what we call a SPP. And that is a location where we are able to monitor and determine whether there is the potential or if there is an active overflow in the system. In that project, we will be doing a sewer separation, which would again help us to reroute the flows so that they can get to the treatment plant for treatment, as opposed to going out to Skidjackwada Creek. I hope that answers the question.
Can I unmute and ask?
Oh, sure.
So I'm wondering, because it seems to me that this is going to impact a lot of homeowners and businesses. And was it considered to put it? You've got a lot of empty land in Delaware Park that's right along the creek. I'm thinking that area just southwest of where the creek goes into the underflow under Hoyt Lake, right in there.
That area would not have been appropriate because the flow needs to be that the catchment that this is actually controlling is very much this neighborhood between Main Street, the 33, and just a few blocks further south from Florida Street. And so this area actually needed to have a separate control system, and that because there is a point where this overflows into Skidjackwada Creek right at Florida Street.
Okay.
Mark, I think if you pop to the map, it helps describe that. Not this one. I think it's, yeah, exactly. So if you follow the project area is right in the top corner there, the blue, and you can see Skidjackwada Creek comes out there, and essentially our project is capturing the combined sewage right before it goes over that weir and patrol point into the creek. So we're essentially catching it at the last possible moment to catch as much flow as possible.
So further west of Main Street, you're really not dealing with an issue of overflow into the creek. Is that correct?
There are different projects that will control overflows west of Main Street, but there are each area and point of overflow needs to be addressed separately. And we need to get the flow from each area into the tunnel to be treated at the treatment plant. And so this was one of those locations where we do need localized control and in order to get that flow to the treatment plant. Again, that there are other projects west of Main Street that will be addressing issues west of Main Street. There have been projects in the past and there will continue to be those projects. Right now, there is a project in Gates Circle to again try to balance flows and address this issue. And so there will be 50 sites throughout the city of Buffalo.
I'm curious about the route or the route of the tunnel that goes to the sewage treatment plant. Does that, I assume it doesn't parallel the creek?
It does in sections parallel and cross under the creek. It is called the Skagway Tunnel. It runs from Schiller Park across the city. It does jog in sections and eventually it ends up at Lafayette and Niagara Street.
Okay.
All right, any additional questions, please put them in the chat box or unmute your microphones, please.
So I have a question that's maybe a little bit dangerous. If the East Side Parkways is successful in getting the tunnel on the Humboldt abandoned, that tunnel project, and instead to infill that ditch and put a parkway in its place, would that existing ditch be sufficient to put in your sewer containment system?
That option has not been fully evaluated because, again, we are talking about several ifs. However, if the East Side Parkway Coalition is successful, we will continue to evaluate what options can be made to better accommodate the goals of the long-term control plan.
It would certainly save you a lot of blasting of bedrock because it's already been done.
It would, but again, we'd have to make sure that we can actually get all flows that need to get to that location, and that they could be treated at the Bird Island Treatment Facility.
So that's enough for me. Thank you for answering my questions.
Thank you. All right, we have a question from Ryan. How deep into the bedrock would the cut need to be in order to accommodate either option A or option B?
Both options A and B are approximately 50 feet below surface. And in both cases, the bedrock is only 3 to 5 feet below surface grade.
All right, any additional questions? Please put them in the chat box or unmute your microphone. Not seeing any questions coming through. Regina and Rosie, were there any additional insights you wanted to share about the project?
Just as a point of clarification, when we do talk about blasting, that is limited to approximately 8 seconds of blasting, and it would be twice a day. And again, if we could go back to the drawing showing the 2 sites and the green lines. So again, the gray is showing where people would most feel and hear that blasting occurring. The outer green and the inner green are more, those are those areas that people will be aware that the blasting is occurring, but would not have the same impacts as those, that inner gray section.
Looking at this, it looks like the project option A has a lot less impact. Why would you even consider B? Or what are the benefits of B?
The benefits of B would be that it would be less into a privately owned property that would need to be purchased from a private property owner. But both would involve the same section of roadway being shut down for the project duration. And again, that is the extent of the blasting impacts. We are also evaluating traffic impacts and other impacts.
What is the red box?
Rebecca, if you could just
Hi.
label
Those-
the 3 boxes there.
Yeah, so the pink red box on the left, so that's representative of the on and off sidewalk and the roadway closures. So in red, pink, that's gonna be about 6 months during construction that portion will be closed to make the tie-ins to the existing weir structure. And the blue on the left, the blue rectangle, that's also that's all the boxes are traffic and roadway closures. So the blue one, that represents 2 years of closure during construction. And then it's a little hard to see, but on Florida Street, the purple box, that's gonna be about 1 year of closure during construction. That's going to impact a few residential homes in that area, and that's gonna be the same under option A or option B. And then if we go to the option B, the tunnel alternative in the yellow rectangle, that's gonna have about 3 years of traffic and roadway closures. So the tunnel option overall, it's going to be about a 3-year duration during construction, and the deep tank will be about a 2-year duration for construction. And you know, we understand that, you know, this is surrounded by, you know, a Canisius University campus, and you know, students are going to be walking and driving, and you know, residents will be as well. So you know, we're keeping that in mind as part of this project, and working with the stakeholders to put the construction specifications together so that the contractor is aware of, you know, the limitations that they might have. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Rebecca. We have a question from Heather regarding option B. Will blasting cause damage to homes, such as cracks in plaster walls or foundations?
It shouldn't. However, we will be, if we choose to take option B, we will be monitoring the extent of any vibrations and doing pre-construction documentation of the existing state of all foundations, walls, etc.
Thanks, Rosie. All right, any additional questions? Please put them in the chat box or unmute your microphones.
Mark, I think I'll just take this time to say, you know, all of the comments that were received today, we will formally respond to as part of the final scope of work for the DEIS. And you can continue to make comments again through November 1st, and they'll be accepted and responded to in the coming months.
Okay, and just really quickly again, if anyone on the call is interested in joining our East Delavan Advisory Committee, please reach out to me in the chat box by leaving your name, your phone number, and email address, and I will contact you. It looks like we've reached all the questions that folks have so far on the call. Regina and Rosie, were there any closing remarks you wanted to give?
Just wanted to thank everyone for their participation on this draft scoping of work webinar, and that this will be posted to our website together with the draft scope of work as it's being presented for additional comments. And again, we would ask that those that have a preference on the tunnel or the deep tank, please reach out to through that website to let us know their thoughts on that. We will plan to make a decision of one or the other alternatives to proceed with design on December 31st.
Wonderful. And please take a moment of your time to go on the Buffalo Sewer website to complete our community survey to weigh in on which of these options you think would be better for this project. Thank you so much, everyone, for your time and your involvement. We look forward to hearing more from you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.
Bye.
Mark, I think we can stop the recording.
Recording. Okay.